dear friends and colleagues. Today I come to you from the road. I am traveling, and as I am traveling, somebody reminded me how important it is to make sure that our clients are aware of the fact that interpreters must be paid for their travel time. I am not talking about the simple expense of commuting from your home to the place where you're going to do the assignment. That's a business expense, and maybe you can reflect that on your fee that you are charging for that assignment. I am talking about when you travel to a place that is about, at least I would say, 50 or 60 miles away from home, but more especially, I am talking about international travel, about overseas travel, where interpreters sometimes take from half a day to a couple of days to go from their site to the place of the conference, and then another half a day to 2 days to come back, regardless of the duration of the assignment. In other words, it could be a 1 day conference, a 1 week conference, and that it doesn't impact the travel time that you have to take into consideration and be paid for. It is important to make sure that our clients do understand that as interpreters we sell our time. In other words, all the time that we commit to a case is time that we cannot use to make money somewhere else. An investor, a business owner in a commercial sense, they can perceive income from several sources simultaneously. But when you're talking about professional personal services like the ones an interpreter provides, you can only earn a fee one client and one event at a time. With that said, the client must understand that interpreters are not just selling the day or the 6 hours or the 4 hours of the event to the client. It is not the time that we are interpreting that we charge and that's it. Interpreters require a lot of other things, including preparation, research, practice. These are things that interpreters have to be paid for because while they are doing them, they cannot earn any income doing another job because they cannot split themselves in two. Same thing goes for traveling. When we travel and we physically go to one place to another, that's time that we are devoting already to that event, to that client, because as we travel, we cannot perform another job. Translators can be translating on a plane or on a train, but we interpreters cannot work while we travel. And for that reason, we cannot perceive an income. On the other hand, that traveling time is time that you already committed to the client. It's time that the client should pay it for, and it's time that many times we use for studying or research on trains or planes, for instance. So our fee must include travel time, because that travel time also includes the fact that if you get to the conference the night before or that morning, early in the morning, you will go to the venue and inspect the venue, the booth, make sure that everything is properly adjusted, set, and working for you to do your rendition. And all this must be reflected in your fee. So interpreters must be paid for traveling. Now, as far as the conditions, there are different criteria, but we can even base it on criteria such as the one of AIC, the International Association of Conference Interpreters, that clearly establishes in some of its agreements that travel time must be paid and also the way that travel time has to be paid. This, of course, is subject to negotiation and it's up to each individual contract that you draft and you agree to with your specific client. But you have to take into account the fact that it's not just a matter of being paid for traveling. Sometimes traveling has to have some minimum requirements or criteria that some other times may not be needed by all interpreters. In my case, I do, but not everybody does. For example, it is perfectly common and it's perfectly useful and it's perfectly normal that interpreters who are going to travel overnight may charge a business fare, or if that's not available, a first class fare of an airline ticket to the client in order to get to the venue rested and interpret that way. Of course, if it's a 1 hour or 45 minutes flight, that is not really a logical argument to make to the client. But if we're talking about a 6, 7, 8 hour flight or even longer, It is important that the interpreter can rest overnight, and therefore a business class where your seat can recline should be the correct thing to ask for and the fair thing for the client to pay for. As far as train traveling, because interpreters have to do a lot of things while they are traveling, including research and study and so forth. It is perfectly normal and acceptable that interpreters get reimbursed for first class fare on any train. That's just the way it should be. Now, if because of the jet lag, because of the duration of the event, because of how long it takes you to get to the airport or from the airport to the hotel or to the venue, or because of your health concerns or whatever might be the case, I really encourage you to always negotiate with the client for a business airfare in all your assignments after a certain minimum duration of time at least. That's something that is up to you and your client and how you explain it to the client and how much your client really values your work. But the thing that is non-negotiable is that interpreters must be paid for their travel time, because travel time is time committed already to that specific client, to that specific assignment, and therefore you have to be paid for that time. How much? A full day, a half day? That depends on what you want to charge. In some parts of the world, half a day is customary. In some other parts of the world, and working for certain companies and organizations, a full day fare is what interpreters should be paid for each one of their travel times. And this is besides being paid for your per diem and being paid for lodging and ground transportation of other means like to and from airports and train stations, etc. So please make sure that you explain to the client all these circumstances, and please do not take any assignments, do not sign any contracts that exclude you being paid for your travel time. At least that is my opinion. Thank you very much.